What advice can you give that balances this? I mean, it's difficult to just say, oh, don't stress out about this. How do, when you're talking to someone who really is stressed, and I know some people are really stressed about this, how can you get through to them?
Did you push record?
Thanks so much for tuning in to Second Act TV. Today I'm so happy to welcome Dr. Laurie Blanscet back to our program. Dr. Laurie, thanks so much for joining us.
I'm happy to be back. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a while. Of course, I just saw you. I was in your office. By way of introduction, if you do not know Dr. Laurie yet, she's been with Second Act since we first started this. Dr. Laurie is my friend and my personal physician. And just a couple days ago, I saw you to get my hormones recharged, but that's another segment. And we had, of course, a very interesting conversation about what everybody's talking about, the change to our daily lives, our world with COVID-19. And you said something that I thought was really important to bring to our audience, and that is that while we have such focus on social distancing, on the preventative steps to not catch or spread the virus, we're not given much on our emotional health and stress and the anxiety. And you made a really good point why that may be even more important. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about that because, again, staying safe physically, it's important to wash our hands. It's important to be smart about our health. Our mental health is just as important. What people don't realize is that when we have excess fear and we have excess stress, and this is going on way before COVID, when we have that going on, we release extra cortisol. And remember, we've talked about cortisol is our natural body's way to reduce inflammation and deal with stress. But our body wasn't designed to have this constant fear, constant stress. And when we have this fear pandemic, which is really what's gone on top of the virus, our bodies are releasing all this cortisol, and that can suppress your immune system, among other things.
Yeah. So while we're putting such, or we think we're doing the right thing by being so diligent, and really, in many instances, our anxiety is raised, our stress is raised, and I know a lot of people around me are spreading fear. And what we're actually doing is making ourselves more susceptible to not only catching COVID, but spreading it. Would that be accurate?
That would, and it's making you more susceptible to disease year round, not just COVID, so year round, and also, raising blood pressure, raising blood sugar, and doing things that are much more harmful to health, because people forget that there are things that we die of all the time, and diabetes and heart disease and cancers. That's nothing to sneeze at, and stress can feed those things.
Yeah. Well, what advice can you give that balances this? I mean, it's difficult to just say, oh, don't stress out about this. How do, when you're talking to someone who really is stressed, and I know some people are really stressed about this, how can you get through to them? Go ahead.
That's a great thing because, again, please know it's normal to have a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of fear. It keeps us alive. So be okay with it and embrace it. Be okay that you have some fear, acknowledge it, and then rationalize it. What I do to stay ahead of this, because of course we're going to think of things that can hurt us and protect, but number one, I start my day in a relaxing way. And what I suggest is a gratitude journal, because when you are in appreciation, you're not in fear, and you train your brain to look at the good. And if you start your day writing 3 things that you are grateful for, that is a wonderful way to start. And then another thing I like is just sitting and breathing quietly. Just be with your breath, quietly breathe, and think about what you want, and just enjoy the moment, because for that moment, life is good. You're alive. Things are good, and just be in that moment. And that really are 2 of my favorite things to do that anybody can do. And there's no side effects. And then, of course, I advise avoid news because watching news is very dramatic. I'm not saying don't be informed. Mm-hmm. You can stay informed without the drama. I'm a big fan of getting the facts and getting to know both sides of the story. but not getting sucked into drama. And if you have to watch news, no more than 10 minutes a day.
Yeah. That's something that I have done for years. I remember when I first learned about anxiety attacks 20 years, about 20 years ago, that's one thing one of my physicians said, why do you watch the news all day long? Because I felt like I had to be informed and, what's going on. And it's like, why? And then I thought, well, yeah, why? And
right, because again, people think they have to be informed, but a lot of that doesn't affect you. And people think it's heartless, but it's not, because if something happens way in Pennsylvania and I know nobody there, me worrying about it only stresses me out and now makes me likely to get sick, which will hurt the people I love. So yes, be aware, but don't be transfixed on it. And my motto is be calm, be safe. So be calm about it, be safe and smart, and not overwhelmed.
Yeah. You also said something to me that really kind of made sense. I mean, it's so obvious, but that, we're all going to die.
Right. And people think that's horrible, but I go, yeah, think about it. There's two things guaranteed. We're born, and at some point we die. Now, it's the in between that matters. And what I find fascinating, there's basically two groups of people. Mm-hmm. There's people like you and I that focus on living. How do we live our best? That doesn't mean crazy. That doesn't mean jumping out of airplanes without a parachute.
Right.
But it means controlling what we can, living at our best, being healthy, focusing on enjoying life. And then there's the people who live not dying. Yeah. And that's focusing on not dying. And that's fear-based. And that's panic-based. And they're really not enjoying life. They might have 20 years of not dying, but they never lived. You and me, we enjoy let's live, enjoy life. And that's a different focus. So I'm not saying just put caution to the wind.
No.
I eat healthy. I exercise, get my hormones balanced. I believe in doing everything I can for my immune system. The rest of it, if I get sick and die tomorrow, that's life I enjoyed today. That's really the point that I was talking about. And I think if people can focus on living and not the not dying, the fear just goes away.
Yeah.
Or minimizes.
Well, and putting the two together again makes so much sense. Is that one, focus on living and understand that by focusing on the fear, when you think you're doing that for good somehow, that's hurting your immune system. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways in this show. And I know you said to me, well, we don't want to scare people, make them fearful of being fearful or not being fearful. But that's what it comes down to, is that we are all going to die eventually. Let's not overplay this. And that's not to say, that you don't put emphasis on social distancing. Do what you need to do what is required of you, of course, but by all means, let's do what we can to reduce the stress and the fear and the anxiety.
Right. Yeah, if you're going to be alive and live, whatever that means for you, without endangering other people.
Well, we're coming to the end of the segment. How would you like to close this out? What can we leave people with to feel a little better?
At the end of the day, you are in control of what you think and what you do, and pay attention to that and avoid letting fear or obligation or guilt guide you, and stop and think before you make a decision, and make sure it's rational and it makes sense for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and remember, and again, that made so much sense to me, that when you feel that stress coming on, with the anxiety, and you feel like that's what you should be feeling because of the situation, you're actually hurting your immune system, and you may actually be making it worse when that is not what you want, right?
Right. Yeah. Focus on appreciation, focus on what you can control, and let go of the rest. So that's not the same as ignoring everything. It's doing what you can and let go of the rest, and not living in fear.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense to me. And I look forward to having you back soon. It's been a while since we talked, on more fun subjects like, rediscovering sensuality with hormone replacement.
That's definitely more fun.
Dr. Laurie, thanks so much for joining me. I'm glad you're doing well. It was great seeing you, and we'll see you soon again on another episode of Second Act TV. Bye
I
bye.
look forward to it. Bye.
If there's a topic that you'd like to have us cover, please go to our website, secondact.tv. We have a little suggestion box in the upper right-hand corner of our site. Just click on through, drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.